You think you're safe at the airport just because there's security everywhere. But what if I told you that professional thieves are watching your every move right now, studying you like prey, and they already know whether you're going to be their next victim before you even realize you're being targeted? Airports are gold mines for criminals, and today I'm going to reveal the shocking psychology and tactics these thieves use to pick their victims. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly how to spot these predators and protect yourself from becoming another statistic. Trust me, some of these methods will absolutely blow your mind. Picture this scenario. You're rushing through the terminal, dragging your suitcase, checking your phone for gate changes, maybe grabbing a quick coffee before your flight. You feel secure surrounded by thousands of people, security cameras, and airport police. But what you don't realize is that somewhere in that crowd, a professional thief is conducting what they call victim assessment, and they've already decided whether you're worth their time and effort. These criminals aren't random opportunists. They're calculated predators who've turned theft into a science, and they use specific psychological profiles and behavioral cues to identify their ideal targets. The scary truth is that most travelers make themselves perfect victims without even knowing it. Let me start with the first major factor these thieves look for, which is what I call the distraction signature. Airport thieves are experts at reading body language and identifying people who are mentally overwhelmed or preoccupied. They specifically target travelers who appear stressed, confused, or juggling multiple tasks at once. Think about your typical airport experience. You're probably checking your boarding pass, looking at departure screens, answering texts, maybe dealing with crying children or arguing with travel companions. This cognitive overload creates what security experts call attention tunneling, where your brain becomes so focused on immediate tasks that you lose awareness of your surroundings. Professional thieves can spot this vulnerability from across a terminal. They look for people who are constantly checking their phones, repeatedly looking at departure boards, or appearing lost and disoriented. These behavioral indicators signal that your mental resources are stretched thin, making you an easy target for various theft techniques. But distraction alone isn't enough to make you a prime target. The second crucial factor is what criminals refer to as wealth signaling. Airport thieves are incredibly skilled at quickly assessing the value of potential victims based on subtle visual cues that most people never consider. They're not just looking for obviously expensive items like designer luggage or flashy jewelry. Instead, they've developed an eye for more discrete indicators of wealth and value. They notice things like the quality of your shoes, the type of watch you wear, whether your luggage has expensive brand tags, and even how you handle your belongings. One particularly telling sign they look for is electronic wealth. If you're carrying multiple high-end devices, constantly using expensive headphones, or have the latest smartphone model, you immediately become more attractive to thieves. They also pay attention to how you organize your belongings. People with expensive items often display certain organizational habits that criminals have learned to recognize. The third major selection criterion is what I call accessibility assessment. This is where thieves evaluate how easy it would be to actually steal from you based on how you carry and position your valuables. Professional airport thieves have identified specific carrying patterns that make theft significantly easier. They target people who keep valuables in easily accessible outer pockets, carry bags with zippers facing outward, or leave belongings unattended even for brief moments. They also look for travelers who are clearly unfamiliar with airport security protocols, as these people often make critical mistakes in how they handle their possessions. One of the most dangerous habits they exploit is what security experts call the laptop shuffle. During security screening, many travelers become so focused on getting through the checkpoint quickly that they lose track of their expensive electronics. Thieves position themselves near security areas specifically to capitalize on this confusion. Now here's where it gets really disturbing. The fourth factor is demographic profiling, and this reveals the calculated nature of these criminal operations. Airport thieves don't randomly select victims. They use specific demographic indicators to identify people who are less likely to report crimes or pursue legal action. They often target elderly travelers who may be less observant or physically capable of pursuing stolen items. They also focus on solo business travelers who are clearly from out of town, as these people are less likely to delay their travel plans to deal with police reports. International tourists are particularly vulnerable because language barriers and unfamiliarity with local law enforcement make them attractive targets. Perhaps most concerning is how they target people based on perceived social vulnerability. Thieves look for travelers who appear isolated, anxious, or lacking confidence. These psychological states make people less likely to confront suspicious behavior or report crimes immediately. The fifth selection method involves what criminals call opportunity mapping. This is where thieves analyze the specific situations and locations where theft is most likely to succeed. They don't just randomly walk around looking for victims. Instead, they position themselves in strategic locations where people's guard is naturally lowered. Charging stations are particular hotspots because people become absorbed in their devices and often leave valuable items unattended. Gate waiting areas during boarding announcements create perfect chaos for pickpockets and bag snatchers. Food courts and restaurants present opportunities when people place bags on adjacent chairs or hang them on chair backs. Bathroom areas are especially dangerous because people often leave luggage outside stalls or become distracted during personal care routines. These criminals have mapped out every high-opportunity location in major airports and position themselves accordingly. But perhaps the most sophisticated aspect of victim selection is what I call behavioral prediction. Experienced airport thieves have learned to predict traveler behavior patterns with startling accuracy. They can often determine your travel experience level, stress level, and security awareness just by observing how you move through the airport. They look for people who repeatedly check their pockets or bags, as this behavior indicates where valuables are stored. They notice travelers who seem unfamiliar with airport layouts, as confusion creates vulnerability. They even watch for people who appear to be traveling alone, but keep looking around as if waiting for someone, indicating potential distraction opportunities. Social media behavior has also become a major factor in victim selection. Thieves increasingly monitor public social media posts to identify potential targets. When people post about travel plans, expensive purchases, or vacation spending, they're essentially advertising their value to criminals who monitor these platforms. Real-time social media posting during travel is particularly dangerous. When you post photos of expensive meals, first-class seats, or luxury hotel stays while traveling, you're broadcasting both your wealth and your current location to anyone monitoring these feeds. The technology factor cannot be ignored in modern airport theft operations. Many thieves now use sophisticated techniques to identify valuable targets through digital means. They look for people using expensive laptops in public areas, travelers with multiple high-end devices, or individuals conducting business calls that reveal financial information. Some criminal operations even use technology to enhance their victim selection process. They may use cameras to observe and catalog potential targets, or employ social engineering techniques to gather information about travelers' financial status and travel plans. The psychological manipulation aspect of victim selection is particularly disturbing. Professional thieves are essentially amateur psychologists who've learned to read human behavior and exploit psychological vulnerabilities. They understand that certain emotional states make people more susceptible to theft, and they actively seek out travelers displaying these characteristics. They target people who appear anxious or nervous, as stress reduces situational awareness. They look for travelers who seem rushed or overwhelmed, knowing these emotional states lead to poor decision-making. They even exploit positive emotions, targeting people who appear excited or celebratory, as these feelings can create a false sense of security. Now that you understand how these predators select their victims, let me share the most effective protection strategies that security experts recommend. The key is to avoid displaying the vulnerability signals that thieves specifically look for. First, practice situational awareness discipline. This means periodically scanning your surroundings, making eye contact with people around you, and projecting confidence even when you feel stressed or lost. Thieves specifically avoid targets who appear alert and aware of their environment. Second, implement strategic wealth concealment. This doesn't mean you should travel with inferior items, but rather that you should avoid displaying wealth indicators unnecessarily. Keep expensive items in secure, less obvious locations, and avoid behaviors that signal high value to observing criminals. Third, develop consistent security protocols for your belongings. Professional travelers create systematic approaches to handling their valuables that become automatic habits. This includes specific ways of carrying bags, positioning luggage, and maintaining awareness of possessions during various airport activities. Fourth, understand and exploit the crowd psychology that thieves rely on. When you project confidence and awareness, you not only protect yourself, but often deter criminals from operating in your vicinity. Thieves prefer to work in environments where they feel unobserved and unchallenged. The most important thing to remember is that airport thieves are professionals who rely on predictable human behavior patterns. When you understand their selection criteria and consciously avoid displaying vulnerability signals, you dramatically reduce your risk of becoming a target. These criminals are counting on travelers to remain unaware of their tactics. By understanding their methods, staying alert, and implementing proper security practices, you can protect yourself and make airports safer for everyone. Remember, knowledge is your best defense against these sophisticated criminal operations. Share this information with fellow travelers. Stay vigilant during your journeys, and never underestimate the calculated nature of airport theft operations. The next time you're in an airport, you'll see it through completely different eyes, understanding the invisible psychological game being played around you, and knowing exactly how to stay safe from these professional predators.